Hey y'all, how y'all doing? Okay, so today is January the 18th. It's Monday. It is also Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. With that being said, I would just like to remind you all that Black Lives Matter. And then I had an entirely different topic I wanted to talk to you guys today. First of all, today is the last day of my vacation. I have been on vacation since last Monday. Not necessarily because I wanted to, but because number one, they've been telling me that I have vacation time coming to me and I needed to use it or lose it. And number two, I got a jury summons for the last 2 weeks. And so the first Monday, I called in and they told me they didn't need me. And so I worked that week. And then last Monday, I went into work that day and I got everything done that I could possibly get done, and then I was on vacation, and then I called that night. Again, they told me they don't need me. Boom, that's my 2 weeks. I'm free, and so I had this whole week free to do what I want. So again, today's the last day of my vacation. After today, I probably will not be doing daily videos like I've been doing, because usually by the time I get home it's dark and I like to do it when it's light out. So until the time changes, I'll probably be making videos on the weekend, unless I maybe change and how I sometimes used to do videos in front of the altar or somewhere else. But anyway, like I was saying, I had an entirely different topic that I wanted to talk to you guys about today. Some spell work that I've been doing since January the 1st. It's a spell that I've been doing every day since January 1st. And I believe tomorrow's Tuesday. Tomorrow's the last day of that spell. And then I won't have to do it anymore. Or hopefully I won't have to do it anymore. And then Wednesday is the presidential inauguration. And that'll give you a hint as to what that spell was about. But I will be sharing that spell with you probably towards the end of the week. I didn't bring it in here with me. I have a little steno book that I keep near me so that I can jot down ideas, suggestions from you guys, things that I want to talk to you about. So it's really full, and it's the first of the year. I told y'all my energy seems to ebb around the last part of November, and then it comes back around the first of the year. So I'm getting my energy back. I'm making videos. Here I am. So what I want to talk to you about today is I'm going to call this video Magic Sans Materia, or the magic of ordinary things. And you probably heard the expression Materia Magica, which means magical materials. And that refers to the things we use in witchcraft, hoodoo, to make magic. So that refers to candles, herbs, oils, dolls, colors, anything we use to cast spells. And this goes back to what I was talking to you about yesterday with the prison ministry. And I did pull out the book. I'm going to show it to you, but I'm covering everything but my own name here. I'm going to turn it toward the camera, so I'm going to read it to you first. This says, Wiccan Study Handbook, created for and requested by the Pastoral Services Branch, South Carolina Department of Corrections. Created and copyrighted by Witches Against Religious Discriminations, Inc., June 2002. And then it's a list of everybody who contributed, but there was two main contributors. Me, it says Dean Harris, that's my real name for those of y'all who don't know, Pagan Prison Ministry Director of Communications. So, darn it. I don't know if y'all saw that. I thought that piece of tape was on there. Okay, anyway. So there is the book for y'all who want to read it. And it also contains several instances of my early artwork. This isn't mine, but this is a picture that one of my pen pal students, inmates, drew for me and sent me. I'm trying to find something that I drew in here. I know y'all don't have anything to do Come on, come on, come on. I just want to find one picture that I drew. I should have marked it beforehand. So while I'm looking for this, the fact that this was copyrighted by Ward, apparently when I signed on to do this project, somewhere in that contract it basically said they owned the copyright to this, and I couldn't use this for anything for myself. Here's something I did. I did this with white pencil and a stencil on a piece of black construction paper. It got scanned and put in the book, so that was like a Ouija board. That's something I did. There's some playing cards that I sort of drew. So there's some of my artwork in here. This is I used to own this. It broke. I got this off of a site called Things You Didn't Know Existed, and like the top part of the head came off, and it was like a stash box, and it was probably about the size of my head. Anyway, so going back to the prison ministry, when I got there, one of the biggest complaints that the guys had was a lack of resources and a lack of tools. And by tools, they mean, of course, candles, wands, cups, pentacles, athames, ritual knives, ritual swords. Of course, these guys are inmates. You don't want them to have full access to these things. So when they're donated and the volunteers come in, the volunteers are usually the ones who handle these things. Or you don't let anyone into the circle that you don't trust to be near a knife. You don't want somebody grabbing the athame off the altar and gutting somebody they have a beef with, you know. And honestly, I got a lot of resistance from them by embracing the opportunity before them to draw on their own personal power, to make use of the limited resources they have in order to make magic. So I'm going to talk to you about some of the ideas I shared with them. So for example, I never went into a prison where they did not have access to at least one deck of playing cards. When I went to jail, there was a period in my life when I went to jail. I wasn't convicted. I was just in there for a week before I got bailed out. And then the charges against me were ultimately dropped. But while I was in there that week, the pod I was in, there were 2 decks of cards. And I remember taking one of them and using them to tell fortunes to the other guys. And that's how I got them to like me. And that's how I got things out of the canteen. Because I didn't have money. You know, when you show up, they give you a toothbrush and a razor and a towel and, you know, underwear. But, you know, if you wanted a little Debbie cake or a candy bar or what have you, you know, you had to buy that yourself, and someone had to put money in your account. So I would do these playing card readings for the guys, and they would give me, you know, little Debbie cakes or whatever. So with playing cards, of course, you can do fortune telling. There's some sympathetic magic you can do with that, meaning, you know, you can use the people cards to represent a person. Let's say there's a bully who's bothering you there in the jail. You might take the King of Swords out of that deck and put it in your shoe face down so that you walk on that. You can put it in your hang it up somewhere in your room upside down to reverse his power. You know, you can even use some of your own body fluids. You don't have oil, but use your body fluids like saliva, or if you're trying to seduce someone there, you can use your own semen and maybe use the King of Hearts or Jack of Hearts and dress that with, you know, your semen. Now, I wouldn't suggest doing that if you're using a shared deck or a group deck, but if it's your personal deck, you know, you use what you have. Another thing that I mentioned with the guys, they wanted their tools, they wanted their wands, they wanted their cups, they wanted their pentacles and their athames. I suggested using the 4 aces from a deck of playing cards or um, a tarot deck, because in some instances they did have tarot decks. In some places, individuals were allowed to have tarot decks. In some places, the deck belonged to the group, and you could like check it out like a library book or something. Um, because on the Ace of Wands has a wand, and I should have brought me a little card. But let's imagine I have a card in my hand. Maybe I would hold that card out and use it like a wand to cast a circle, and then maybe I would take my Ace of Cups and put the Ace of Pentacles, down in it for simulating the Great Rite. Or I would take the cup, hold it in my hand, and I would imagine a real cup being filled with water, and I would take an imaginary sip. Because, perception is reality. You're just manipulating these cards and these images the same way you would say use a voodoo doll to affect a person. Playing cards and tarot cards can be used to cast spells. One of, a very basic spell is to choose 3 cards. The first card represents what you want. No, I'm sorry. The first card represents you. So let's say if I'm going to do a spell for money. When I first began using tarot, I used the Page of Cups to represent me. Later on, I used the Hangman. So let's say I'm going to use the Hangman. That's me. And then in the second cards over here, this is what I want. So we'll call that money. We'll say the Ace of Pentacles, right? And so the center card is how you're going to get it. So let me just say, I don't know how I get it, so I'll put the Wheel of Fortune. So you'll have the Hanged Man representing me. We'll have the Ace of Pentacles representing what I want, the end goal. And then the middle card is how do I get there? And that was the Wheel of Fortune. So those cards sort of tell a story. I'm going to have a windfall that will lead to money. Boom. And you may not have candles, but you're able to, and this goes to lack of tools. You're able to chant. I think I just got a package, and it's Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, so why is there mail today? I don't know. Anyway, you're able to chant. You're able to visualize. You're able to meditate. You're able to say a spell, money coming right to me. In my hand, it will be. Me, I love spells that have a spoken component. You don't have to rhyme. If you're not Wiccan, if you're a hoodoo out there, you can say an affirmation. I am now attracting money from sources known and unknown. However you want to say it. They have access to pen and paper. So I would suggest, going back to the tarot cards, they absolutely hated that idea. They would rather have nothing than use the 4 aces from a tarot deck to conduct ritual. They just did not want, if they didn't want the real thing, they didn't want a substitute. Anyway, going back to what I was saying, so they have access to pen and paper. So if you have access to pen and paper, you're able to do scripting. I don't know if that's the right word, that's what I call it. And I told you guys about this before, where scripting, my definition of scripting is you write a story about yourself or your life or an event in your life, not the way it is, but the way you want it to be. And writing down your goals helps you to clarify what you want and helps you to make them real. So you might sit down and write a story about, let's say you're looking to meet someone and you might write a story about, it was a beautiful morning. I got up, I took a shower, I was feeling good, and I drove down to the grocery store just to get a few things to make a nice dinner for myself. And, I reached for the croutons at the same time as this man did, and our hands touched, and we looked at each other and we laughed, and we struck up a conversation, and we wound up going to get coffee, and I really liked him and he seemed to like me, and we exchanged numbers. And he called me the next day and we scheduled a date. We went out on a date and blah blah blah, bing bang boom, we got married, had 2.5 children in a house with a white picket fence. Whatever you want it to be. Write your story about your life, not the way it is, but the way you want it to be. And then what you can do is you can read that story every day. Imagine it happening for you. Imagine how you would feel, because it's like when you read a book and you get so in tune with the book, you sympathize with the characters. And when I'm trying to think from my one of the first books I ever read as a child was Charlotte's Web, and I remember as a child when at the end of the book, spoiler alert, at the end of the book, Charlotte died. The spider died, and I cried and I cried and I cried. That emotion is power. So if you can write your own story and get to that emotional feeling to where it's almost real. What you're reading is real to you. You are you are aligning your vibration with that story. You're aligning your vibration with the emotions and feelings of that story so that you can magnetize it to come to you. Um, Other ways to use pen and paper is simply to write a list of your goals. Write a list of your goals. Reverend Ike, he suggested to people, write down your goals and review them often. That's one way he says to make things happen for you. Because when your goals are in your consciousness, you're aligning yourself with that energy. Let's go back to money, or let's say friendship. Let's say you want to attract friends. A great way to align yourself with something with the power of words is to basically sit comfortably, go into a meditative state. You want to reach what's called the alpha state. Lori Cabot called it the alpha state. It's a state when your mind and your body are completely relaxed, and then either you can think it or say it out loud. You can say friendship or close friendship. Try to keep it to as few words as possible. Excuse me. And just say friendship, friendship, friendship. And think about what friendship means to you. Imagine yourself meeting up with friends and going out to movies or, hanging out, ordering a pizza, playing games, whatever it is that, you want or looking for in a friendship. And so what you're doing is you're tuning your personal power, your vital life force, your personal magnetism to the frequency of friendship. And if you constantly have that idea of attracting friendship on your mind, you're keeping yourself tuned to that goal, and you draw it to you. Going back to pen and paper, writing down your list. The other flip side of that is drawing your own future. You've heard of vision boards where people take magazines and newspapers and they cut out words that jump out to them and pictures. Maybe you want a new house, so you might get you one of those little real estate books that show pictures of people's homes and stuff, and you'll take the living room from this house and maybe the kitchen from this house and different words like homeowner, and you put it on a poster board or a bulletin board in an aesthetically pleasing manner, and that becomes your vision board. Again, if you don't have access to scissors and glue and all these pictures, but you are able to draw, you can draw your vision board. You don't even have to be able to draw, really. You can let's go back to the house. You can take a piece of paper or a poster board. Well, in prison you wouldn't have poster board, but you have paper because they let them receive letters and they let them write letters, so they have access to pen and paper. You can write homeowner at the top of that, and then draw a rudimentary house. And then draw a little car out front and maybe put a little fence around it. As best as you can, just get that vision out and hang it up somewhere, and it's there as a reminder. Pictures are great reminders. Going back to the tarot, if you have a tarot card, let's say you want to have a home and family, you might focus on the 10 of Cups, which shows a man and a woman looking at a home and their children are dancing next to them. You can put that up somewhere to where you see it. Pictures are really great because I feel, and I do this, I think that people naturally think in pictures. Some people think in words, some people think in pictures, and I think the majority of people think in pictures. Think about how pictures evoke feelings. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words. Look at porn. Look at porn images, how, the image of the human body or sexual acts gets people, aroused, or even violence. These kids that play these video games, that sort of raises their, I'm not saying video games cause violence, but it's a way of aligning yourself with that energy, is to look at a picture of something, and it gets imprinted on your subconscious, and it evokes these emotions. That is energy and power that you can draw on. Going back to drawing pictures of the future, or drawing a picture of something that you want. If you are versed in, let's say, the runes, you can draw a rune on a piece of paper and focus on it. You might draw a rune on a piece of paper. You can take your saliva and bless it, your blood, your semen. How you collect that is up to you, but I'll tell you a tip. When I was in jail, you do it quietly. You face the wall. You don't face outside. You face the wall. You do it quietly. Let's say, so bless it with your bodily fluids, and then you can fold it up and carry it in your pocket. If you want to, destruction is a form of creation, because you're changing something. So you can draw your rune or your sigil. If you know how to draw a sigil or create a sigil, you don't even have to stick to a rune. You can do an astrological symbol like the sun, the moon, or the planets, whatever symbol of the energy that you want to draw upon. You can draw that energy there onto that paper. Draw that image on the paper. Bless it with your bodily fluids. Raise energy through meditation, chanting, hand gestures, clockwise circle drawn over a rune. You're filling that up with energy. It's like when you take a cap on a bottle, you're sealing that. So you're sealing that energy. If you want to take energy off of something, let's say I found this at an antique store, I would do counterclockwise circles to take energy off of that. So just like when you take that cap off that bottle, you're releasing it. You can do this with a pendulum if you have a pendulum. That's what's going to be my next thing really quick. Like some of the guys are able to wear their pentagrams on a leather thong or something. That can be used like a pendulum. I don't want to get in that real quick. I want to finish the whole paper. So destruction is a form of creation, because you're taking something that was a piece of paper and you can tear it up, and you've changed its form, and you can flush it down your toilet, or you can throw it in the trash. Obviously you can't burn it, because in jail you don't have access to fire, even though some of them smoke sometimes. You who are not in jail, of course you can burn that, and you're releasing it like the phoenix who burns up in the ashes and reborn. So this was a piece of paper, you're destroying it, but it's going to come back. The energy behind that is going to come back to you in a new form, from the unmanifest to the manifest, right? So those are some ways that you can use pen and paper to make magic. Before I move on to the pendulum thing, I also wanted to mention another thing I suggested to them is with sigils. When you go out into the yard, and the yard is where you've seen in movies where they get to go outside for an hour or so a day, and they're all fenced in, and maybe there's a basketball hoop, some exercise equipment, whatever. There's a patch of grass and what have you, and they're all hanging out. If you can go find yourself a little spot where you can be as private as possible with a little patch of dirt in front of you, draw your sigil in that dirt, and you can sit there and meditate on that sigil, chant over it, do your hand gestures. Don't worry about if other people are looking at you. Just push that out of your consciousness. And then when you're done, take 3 pinches of that dirt from that sigil and put it in your shoe to carry it with you, and then you sort of erase the dirt. This is something you can do at home in your own yards to pull in the power of nature and dirt. I've even done things where I've taken leaves and I've put them in the form of a geomancy symbol. Those of you who don't know what geomancy is, there's these little glyphs that look like dots. So going back to friendship, if you want to attract friends, you might find some rocks outside, and it's like 2, 2, 2, 2. That's the geometry for populace, meaning people, friendship, group efforts. And when you're done, you can scatter the rocks. That's your act of destruction so that it comes back to you in a different form. Now, as I said before, some of the guys are allowed to wear a religious symbol. When you go into the prisons, you know, you'll see people wearing crosses, pentagrams. I forget what the Muslims wear. There were Muslims and Native Americans. I forget what they wear, but this can be removed. Let me do it. This can be removed and used like a pendulum. This is my layman. A layman's like a talisman. And so I can use this like a pendulum to ask questions. Am I going to get out on parole? Hopefully, yes. Am I going to get raped tonight? No. But pendulums can also be used to cast spells. For example, let's take my glasses. Let's say for whatever reason I broke my glasses and somebody had a spare pair of reading glasses or letting me use, but maybe it's got some bad energy. So I might put this in my hand and I'll take my I'm calling it a pentacle, but it's my carnelian, my pendulum, and I'll draw counterclockwise circles over these glasses, and I'll focus on pulling that negative energy out of this object, and I'll just let it go till either it stops or it's on, or I feel like it's enough. And then what I might do is when I get back to my room, or if I'm already in my room in the pod, they have a sink, and I would just run this under some cool water to cleanse it of that negative energy. You can do the same thing with your I'm speaking from people who are in jail, but any of this can be done in your home. You can do the same thing with your home. Going around your cell, you can do the 4 corners and the center, because, you know, they say energy runs in straight lines, especially negative energy. So negative energy tends to accumulate in corners. So you would go to the 4 corners and you would do this, and then maybe the center of the room just to get any residual out. And then you would run this under the cool water to cleanse it. Or if you're lucky enough to have a window in your room, you can put this up on the ledge to where the sunshine can cleanse it, if you trust that it won't get stolen. And again, any of this stuff that I'm sharing with you guys can be adapted to your personal practices. And honestly, I would challenge you, if you found yourself on a desert island, would you be able to do your magic without your tools, without your candles, without your dolls, without your herbs? You need to build up your personal power. And I'm going to end this with a ritual, but that you can do every day or whenever you feel like it, to help you attract what you want. But I want you to know that your most powerful tool is your own mind, because before you do anything, you got to get it right in your mind. Everything else is an extension of your mind. Every thought, every word, every deed is an extension of your mind. So now before I leave you, I'm gonna share with you a ritual, a simple ritual that you can do anytime, almost anywhere, and it doesn't require candles, tools, dolls, herbs, roots, anything but your mind and a comfortable, 3 things needed for ritual: time, space, and energy. So you need time to do this, you need a space to do this, and you need the energy to do it. And the energy is going to come from your own mind. And this is something, I'm not just telling y'all, this is something I do in my own life. So each night, as part of my winding down ritual, so this is really a ritual within a ritual, things I do before I go to bed is I make sure the doors are locked, I turn off the lights, what have you. One of the things I do is I climb up in I call it my big comfy chair. It's a chair, it's very big and comfortable. We're in the winter months right now, it's cool, so right now I have a heated blanket there. And it has an ottoman that pulls right up to the chair, so it looks like it's one piece. And I'm able to climb in that chair and stretch out my legs, and I get under my heated blanket, and that's where I read. But I also put my arms up on the armrest, And what I do, I basically just take several deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth, slowly. Fill your lungs up as much as you can. Hold it for 1 to 3 seconds. Let it go. And as I do this breathing exercise, I'm doing a relaxation ritual, beginning at my toes, working up my feet, my ankles, my shins, my thighs, my junk, my belly, my chest, my arms, my head. I completely relax my body and let my mind go blank. And honestly, it's very hard to let your mind go blank, especially if you're a person who's an overthinker. So what you do is, if it's hard for you to let your mind go blank, just let the thoughts pass through you like sunlight through a glass. Let the thought just come and go, just free flow, right? And so at this point, you should have, when your mind and body are both relaxed, you have achieved the alpha state. And this is the optimum state of mind and body for making magic. And so now what you do, all your personal power, your vital life force, your personal magnetism is flowing to the surface. You now have full access to your personal power. Excuse me. And then this is where either mentally or verbally you can state your intention through a spell, a psalm, an affirmative prayer, whatever it is you have. Again, let's go back to money. You might say, I am now attracting money to me from sources known and unknown. It flows to me in an ever increasing amounts of prosperity and abundance, so that all my needs are met and more. You state that, you put the energy out there, and then you just sort of sit there. Again, let your mind go blank if you can, and enjoy that feeling of perfect peace and relaxation. Do that for maybe 2 minutes. Let it go, and then you're done. That's it. Do that every day. Do that every single day. Work on one goal at a time before you move on to something else. And the last thing I would say is keep a journal. Get you a blank book, and then at the beginning, write the date. You might want to write the moon phase, write your issue or condition. Under that, write, how you're going to frame your intention. Is it a prayer? Is it a rhyming spell if you're Wiccan? Is it a Bible verse? Whatever it is. And then under that, you'll leave space for a timeline of events. This is the structure that I use in my magical diary. And then you leave room to write what happened. So let's say you do this ritual, and maybe 3 days later, you're walking along somewhere and you find $20. Boom, that's money. Or a lot of people don't think about passive income or passive windfalls. And by that, I mean, let's say you go to the grocery store, and I've had this happen to me. You go to the grocery store, you buy groceries, and the cashier goes, oh, you're buying such and such. There's a coupon for that. They scan that coupon, boom, you just saved $5. I know it's only $5, but now you saved $5 more than you would have if you hadn't used that comment. People don't think about things like that. They think of doing a money spell, and, boom, Ed McMahon shows up at their house with that $1 million check, $5,000 a week for life or what have you. It don't always work like that. So once you get this pattern of this ritual down, you can expand it. So that when you go to, I'm not saying completely abandon your candles and dolls and things like that, but this is a way to come into your own power, and then you can enhance that with your candles and stuff. So imagine now you have an altar and you're going to do the same spell. You do your relaxation ritual. Then when you open your eyes, instead of stating your intention, then that's when you prepare your candle, light it, put your oils on it, what have you, state your intention. You're pulling more of these things into your magic. I think of this as like putting a puzzle together, right? A jigsaw puzzle. So like you have the box that tells you what it's supposed to look like. So that's your goal. And then you have all these little pieces, right? And so, this piece is my mindset, and this piece is the candle, and this piece is the herbs that I'm using, and this piece is the oil, and this piece is the, higher power I'm calling on. And eventually you get a clear picture. That's your spell, right? Oh, and then really quick, going back to your book of your magical diary, there's one thing I want to mention to you, and this is what I do. I'm just going to say, let's imagine this is the book. So let's say on this page you wrote your date, you wrote your issue or condition, I want to attract money, and then you wrote your timeline of events, right? But then over here you started another goal, right? But then, you need to go back and add something here. So what I do is I number the pages in my book. So what I would do is down here, let's say this is page 3 and this is page 4. At the bottom of page 3, I would write continued on page 5. So then I go over to page 5 and I would write continued from page 3. And so sometimes with my magical book, it's like, I have a goal right here. And then, wait, it goes to this page, and then it goes to this page, and here we go. Finally on page 14, this is how it ended up. It might have took me that many times. Now, I told y'all to work on one goal at a time, but that's in the beginning. When you get more proficient, and that's why sometimes, like, I might have a goal here that I'm working on, and I might have a goal here that I'm working on. When you get more proficient, you can take on more goals at one time, and the way I do that is that's when I pull in moon phases and days of the week. So let's go back to money. So when the moon is waxing, that's when the moon is going from new to full, and this is where I would work on drawing money to me, right? And then when the moon is waning, I might work on banishing debt. And you know what? I just realized that's a bad example because that would go on the same page. That wouldn't be a different spell. So let's say money and love, right? So let's say you're working during a waxing or growing moon, and you're working on money on Sunday. So on Sunday, I would do my ritual for money. And then let's say if I want to draw a lover, I would do that on Friday. So I'm to the point where I'm not doing it every day. I'm doing it once a week. So on Sundays, I do my work for Monday. On Fridays, I'm doing my work for love. And then I don't write the complete spell because then that's getting into your book of shadows. So like your diary is sort of a companion to your book of shadows or your receipt book. So you might write in your book, you might have the come to me spell. So in my diary, I would write, here's my date, here's my issue or condition. I want to attract a compatible lover. And then here is, this is the statement of intent that I use in the beginning. And then under timeline of events, down here you might say, on the first day, you might talk about, while I was meditating, after I stated my intention, I saw a vision of, a rabbit. So you would interpret that as good luck, because rabbits are associated with good luck. Rabbits are also associated with the loss of fear. So you might write, I need to let go of my fears. So then on a different day, you might say, let's say on Friday you did that spell for love. And then let's say, of course, so Saturday is a good day for transformation and change. So you might write the date for Saturday, and over here you look in your receipt book or your book of shadows, you have a spell to cast off fear or a fearless spell. You might write cast fearless spell, and then you might write anything like, I burned a candle and then the candle burned down clean. That's a good sign. Or the candle burned down dirty, or the candle burned down half clean, half dirty, whatever you want to say. You're not writing the complete spell. You're just saying, this is a spell I did, and you're keeping up with the result, so that your diary is a companion to your book of shadows or your receipt book. Anyway, I have gone on and on a lot longer than I thought I would, and this is going to take a while to upload, but I think I've given you a lot of information today to work on, and I'd like to hear from you if you have been able to use any of this information that I've shared with you, or anything you'd like to share with me. Until next time, have a great week, everybody.